One. Hey, welcome back to the podcast. We are so glad you're here. Oh, now I feel like this one. We're about to get into some nitty gritty, you guys. So if you've been waiting around for us to talk about the hard stuff, get your listening ears on because we are going to talk about the hard stuff. I've got Kari and I've got Alecia here with me. Good morning, my friends.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You guys, so what I thought I would do is talk about or start with this thing I used to say all the time when I was a director of a child development center. And it was this. I would tell this to the teachers. You need to bring up the issues before they're issues because we know what's coming down the pike in classrooms. Like if we know in the infant room, as soon as those kids get teeth, those toddlers are starting to develop, biting is going to happen. So parents get so upset when their kids will bite. So you got to talk about biting before the biting happens. And I thought that totally applies here. When you are engaged and you're getting married and you've got in-laws on the horizon, it is not too soon to start talking about the things before it's emotional. So talk about the wedding way before the wedding planning. Who's going to plan the wedding? What do you think about that? Let's just start there. Let's just start. Okay. Let's just start before the babies come. Let's talk about the wedding. If you're listening to this and you're engaged, Kari, what do you think about what do you say about the wedding?
Whose responsibility is that? Is it the mother's law? Is that her responsibility to bring it up with the daughter-in-law? Or is it for the daughter-in-law to say, hey, this is coming up, I'm getting ready to do this. So whose responsibility is that?
Well, whoever's listening to this freaking podcast, if you're listening to this podcast, it's your responsibility. You be the one daring enough to say, hey, can we just talk about some things? I just want to make sure we are on the same page. And I think it's fine if you're the one getting married. And I also think it's fine if you're the mother-in-law and you're going to say, or the mom and say, I just want to make sure we have no miscommunication because I know that expectations ruin relationships. So I don't want to have the wrong expectations. What do you think, Alecia?
Oh, goodness. So good.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. As a mother-in-law who, our oldest son has been married for 5-6 years now, something like that. I feel like it is my daughter-in-law's responsibility to plan the wedding. Right? Like that's not my responsibility. Right. And I think just recognizing that is her wedding, that she wants to do her way. In fact, my daughter-in-law even went to the lengths that she said, I don't want anybody to pay for anything because I don't want anybody telling me what to do or what I can't do at my wedding. And of course, we're like, we'll help you. We'll let you can do what you want. Why don't you, let us help you? But she was very adamant. So, eventually we people helped out with stuff, but yeah, I kind of approach that as like, hey, I would love to help as much or as little as you would like my help with that. I'm so excited that you guys are getting married. And she was really great about it. One thing that she did that really kind of started that bond with me is that she invited me to go wedding dress shopping with her. So it was me and her mom and her, and we all went wedding dress shopping with her. And then we kind of tried to do.
Let me interrupt you, Alecia. Let me interrupt you right there because that's key. Listen, if you're listening to this and your daughter-in-law does not invite you to go wedding dress shopping, do not get your panties in a wad.
Yes.
This is not about you. I'm going to say this every single time from here out. This is not about you. You had yours. This is about this bride. And you need to just back it on up. And I think it's hard for some of us and we get our feelings hurt and we overthink, why would she not invite us? Who knows? Who cares? It's not about you. So that's awesome that she invited you. That's lovely that she invited you. I got one daughter-in-law who invited me. One didn't. I didn't even go to the wedding to one because they got married in the courthouse and there wasn't room for one of my Eggers boys. You could take 4 people and I didn't make the cut. And you know what? So be it. It was fine. I went to the dinner after. We had a great time. It's not about us. Okay. Sorry to interrupt on that.
Yeah.
No, I'm just going to move us. I'm going to
great.
move us on this one because there is a lot I want us to talk about. I want us to get, so with the wedding, I'm going to skip because we're mainly going to talk about this grandparenting thing. So I think have that attitude. What you just said, Alecia, Kari, you agree with that throughout the whole wedding?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, absolutely. If you could do that one thing just for a wedding, can you imagine how that would change the narrative of the whole, that's such a hot, we could do a whole podcast just about that.
Yes. I think you're right. I think it's setting the stage. And again, before emotions are huge, you don't wait till the, night before the wedding to just blow up because you had all these feelings throughout the whole engagement that you didn't discuss. You just have conversations. You guys, conversations are going to change your world if you can be daring enough to have the conversation. So let's move on. The babies are coming. Well, there are holidays. I don't want to skip over the holidays, and we're going to talk about holidays on their own. So I'm going to skip over that today because holidays is usually the next thing once you get married. Where do we go? But we're going to talk about that later. So let's skip on. Babies are coming. Here we go. You've got a baby coming, whether it's your daughter, your daughter-in-law, your son and daughter-in-law. What do you think the move is, Kari?
I mean, again, conversation about it. What are the expectations? And then also, just like you said, it is not about me. It's not about my life, my experience, and my expectations and what I want. It's not about me anymore. It's about her and what she wants. And so to, just be open to planning a baby shower. If that's, asking, hey, can I plan a baby shower for you? We can do that as mother-in-laws.
Yes.
That's a way we can love on them. That's a way we can step in, whether she invites us to the birth or not. That's not it. So where can we show up? Carly, it was totally different. She's asking me all the things. She wants me to tell her all the things. That's different. But with my daughter-in-law, with Kayla, and the birth of her 3 kids, like, I just waited and I'm here. And she said, I want a pizza after I have, by golly, we are getting you that pizza. Like, where can I show up for her in a way that means the most to her, rather than what I want to do?
Yes, 100%. What's most important to her? Alecia, what's been your experience with the whole birth of babies?
So again, same daughter-in-law that invited me to go dress shopping, invited me to go to the birth with her mom. So it was her and my son, Andrew, her mom, and me. And honestly, I was shocked. That was not an expectation that I had. And I think we get in a lot of trouble when we have these expectations, right?
Absolutely.
We're like, well, I expect that you're going to, like, I'm part of the family. Like, you're part of this family. We're almost kind of like, I hate to say it, but kind of like a periphery on their family. They have this new family now. So, and that was an amazing experience. I was so grateful for that. The second time around, she's like, yeah, now that I know how that goes down, nobody's coming in with Andrew.
Yeah.
Even her own mom.
That's hilarious.
So,
yeah.
Which was fine. And same with my other daughter-in-law. It was just my son that was in there. And one of the time, like, I didn't even get to see the baby until after they were home from the hospital, like way home. Like, it was maybe like a week or 2 weeks before I got to see him. Which was hard for me because, you love that little one, but at the same time, I had to remember, I want to give her the space that she wants, that she needs. And I just kept checking in with her saying, hey, how can I support you? Do you need me to bring you stuff? Do you want me to, do you want me to Instacart some stuff to your house? Do you want me to take your 2-year-old? Do you, like, how can I be there for you? Not how can I get what I want with those kids?
Yeah, I think I told you ladies about sitting at the nail salon next to a woman who she was expecting her first grandchild, and she did not know that the delivery had been scheduled. They were going to induce, and a neighbor or friend or someone had mentioned it to her. So she was in the nail salon getting her nails done because she was going to show up at the hospital. And I'm like, oh my goodness, what's going on there? Did they not tell you about it? She goes, no, they didn't. They didn't want me to be at the birth, but I'm going to show up because that's my grandchild and I will be at that birth. And I thought, man, you are really setting the stage for all the mother-in-law memes that we share with one another. You really are about to become that in person. It isn't about you, and it's not about It's not about your time. It's about their time. So it sounds like you ladies both handled it well. I've been at, I've never been in the room because all my grandbabies were born C-section, but I've been at the hospital for some, haven't been there for some, seen some the day of, seen some weeks later. So it's been a combo, like you said, and all is fine. I mean, at no point do I go, if only I had been there the day of, my relationship with those grandbabies would be so different. No. But what it does do is that if we follow our daughter and daughter-in-law's lead, our sons, what they want, then we're going to be somebody they can trust to show up when they need and to back off when they don't need us. So the birth. So I would say again, you're in this space, talk about it before it's emotional. Then we get the babies born and it's game on for these new parents, right? They've got all their thoughts on how they're going to feed this baby, how they're going to sleep. Are they going to co-sleep until the baby's 18? Are they going to, feed breast only, no breast at all? Are they going to, all the things. Again, for me, I remember being a young mom and I was super psycho. I mean, I'll be the first to tell anybody. I was psycho about the feeding. We did only organic. We did no sugar. My mom thought I had lost my mind. She gave my kid ice cream when I didn't look because she thought I was like, they were going to be, struggling for the rest of their life because I didn't give them ice cream. So anyway, I've had that. How do you handle that? How do you handle all the opinions that these new parents have? And you've got maybe different opinions. What do you think the best way to navigate? What would your advice be? Let's say this. What would your advice be if you are a young mom listening to this podcast and you have all these thoughts and you want your parents and your in-laws to obey, because it is your child? How do you navigate that, Kari?
Goodness. Well, I love how you're laying this out because you can see how the conversation around the wedding, how the conversation around having babies, and now
Yes.
this, how that's just a pattern and a way of the relationship. It's already setting the stage for this kind of conversation. So it's not isolated in and of itself. Definitely, if it's an open conversation, just say, hey, can we talk about this a minute? Here's how I want to do things. I want, Carly chose not to do certain things and do certain things that I did or didn't do. And that's up to her. And then just to be able to again, to be in a posture of being open and listening to who they are as parents now. That's a different identity and they're different than us. So respecting her decisions, sure, I see this down the road going this direction, but that's not for me to stop. It's for her to make those decisions and learn from them just like I did as a mom. So again, just have an open conversation, being there with some advice when it's asked, again, unsolicited advice, but when it's solicited, be there to say, hey, yeah, this is what I did and this is how it ended up. And I'm glad I did it or didn't bottle feed or breastfeed as long as I did. And that's my experience. Oh my gosh. And you guys with Google, like we didn't have that as moms. There's so many resources and opinions out there and ways of just finding out what is good and isn't good that we didn't have. We were just trial and error, right? Like, I don't know. I think this is right. So again, like I said, just having that open posture along the way is really, really important.
Yeah, I think even writing things down, if you don't want to have that, if you're nervous about having that verbal conversation, I think it's okay to write down, hey, we've just put some things down. This is how we're going to handle feeding. This is how we're going to handle sleeping. And if you're going to watch our baby, this is what we'd like for you to do. And the biggest thing, if you are the parent or the in-law, I know I keep saying freaking a lot today, freaking follow that. Like, follow it. Don't wait. Don't go turn their head and go, we'll do whatever we want. They're not here, honey. We'll do whatever we want. Yes, you can have the soda. Don't tell your mom. Man, that's the worst thing you can do. It is the absolute worst thing you can do.
Those little people are going to snitch on you anyway.
Well, that's right. But you know what? That's distrust. Why would you do that? Right. But we think it's so cute and funny. Don't tell your parents. Well, okay. Who's a girl who preaches no secrets. Right? No secrets, because that can lead to really some harmful things when big things happen. We want kids to tell secrets. So don't put them in that situation to keep a secret. You just do what they ask. If you want it, being a grandparent is a privilege. Got it? If you're listening to this, being a grandparent is a privilege. I know you girls get it, but I'm just saying if you're listening, because you don't have to be involved in that. Yeah, Alecia, go.
I was going to say one of the one of the hardest things for me, and I think where us as mother-in-laws, grandmothers get into trouble with when the kids come along and all of these decisions are being made, is that we have opinions on how things should be done, or maybe on how we did things, or all of the above. And for me, it's been a struggle to be like, okay, that was my opinion when I was raising my kids, but that doesn't mean that that's the best way for everyone. These kids are all different. These parents are all different. I stayed at home for the first 15 years or so. You know, both of my daughter-in-laws work full time. What works for them may not work for me, and what might be better for them might not have been better for me. So I think just being able to check your opinions at the door, right? And
yeah.
And it's not about your opinion, right? Just check that at the door and see how you can support them. I love the idea of having a written down, almost kind of like instruction list, to say, hey, this is what we're trying to do at home. Can you please reinforce that when you have them? I love that. I also will confess, there was a time when Elise, our oldest granddaughter, we had 3 boys. She's first little girl, only girl still, super spoiled by us. And she was like 5 months, and they were trying to not have her sleep in their bed. And I told Jeff, and I'm like, well, no, as I said, like, she needs to go in the crib. And Jeff looked at me, he's like, what's wrong with you? That girl can't talk. I'm gonna snuggle with that baby. And I'm like, well, I know what to do with that. So I confess, we snuggled with that baby, and I told him, like, I'm sorry, we didn't do it. We snuggled the baby, but next time we'll try to do better.
Well, I think even in that, in honest conversations, what do you do when you don't agree with their list? For example, maybe you're the one who feeds all organic and they don't. And so it pains you. You're having to go buy like gummies that you would never have given your own kids, but here you are giving your grandkids. How do you handle those tough situations?
Yeah, so I didn't do that. I didn't do that well. And so I'm glad that they're still young where I can change and learn and grow and do this better. Is that, we don't have gluten and dairy in the house. We just don't. And so when my grandkids would come, they drink milk. They do, like we all did. And my kids did too. So in the beginning, I was like, I'm not having milk. She's not having milk. Well, poor little thing, Millie, was here. I'm making almond milk and my almond cow. She's like, okay, I'll just try it. Like, So she went home, and then she said, the first thing I had when I went home was a glass of milk. I was like, oh my goodness, I can have milk at the house. Like, that is something I can do for her, and have the granola bars if that's what, like, just like you're saying, like, have what they need and who they are as people. I don't have to put my issues and my things on them. Be more open to who they are and what they want.
Yeah, I think the whole strengthening, we talk about the title of this podcast, strengthening grandparenting ties. And I think so much of that starts with strengthening parenting ties, right? If we can show our children that we are here for them, and we are honoring them by caring for their children the way that they would. That does strengthen the grandparent ties, just doing that. Let's move on and talk about, though, what are some other ways we can be that support and be that additional person that's helpful. Let's talk about wisdom, experience. This is one thing. It's so funny. I was an early childhood director at the age of like 23. Had a degree in child development. I thought I knew it all, you guys. I would go into these parents, giving them advice, giving these teachers. I mean, girl knew her stuff. I was clueless. I had not a kid. I didn't understand the exhaustion, just the demand of being a parent. I had all the education, had some experience. I didn't have any wisdom. Now sitting on the other side, having raised 8 kids, grandparenting 6 kids, gone through all the things, I got some wisdom in my belt. How do we not throw up that wisdom onto our children when they don't want it? I know it's unsolicited advice, but yet we do have so much that we want to just share with them. What is the best way to handle that wisdom, experience, mentorship, if you will? Alecia, you go.
For me, again, this is something that I struggle with, so I have to work hard at it, to not just blah, 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 and verbally whatever's coming out. But take a step back and be like, wow, that's going to be so hard, right? I either can relate to that or I can't relate to that, or and like, are you open to some feedback of some things that I'm seeing? And if they're like, no, I'm not really, I'm like, okay, great. How can I help you with, like, what do you want to do about it? What are your, not that anything has to be done about it, but usually it's about a particular thing, right? Somebody's not listening, or somebody's biting, or somebody's, throwing food on the floor, well, whatever it is, and just kind of ask, like, hey, how do you want to handle it? And how can I support you? And how can I come alongside you with that?
Yeah, I think
because unless they ask for it, they're not going to be receptive to me just coming in and be like, oh my gosh, so what you really need to do with them is blah blah blah.
Yes. And I think one of the hardest parts is when it's happening in front of you, when a child is, let's say you have a discipline issue, and I'm like, I know exactly what I would do in this situation, girlfriend. And so I want to take over and call it role modeling, right? That I'm role modeling the appropriate thing to do. Right, but I'm really like, let me just take this over, because you're not handling this the way that I would. So I'm going to just jump on in here and shit. And so you have to be real careful. What's your motive for sharing your wisdom and your experience, and do they want you as a mentor, or do they not? And even though here I am, that's what I do for a living, is I teach parenting trainings, and I, speak on child development. My daughters-in-law don't necessarily want that for me. They want me to show up for them, not sharing my wisdom. They want me just to be there and to, be their friend, be their companion. I noticed I was in South Carolina last week, and sweet Caroline had surgery, and I forgot what I was doing. I was making dinner or something. She said, hey, when you finish, come sit in the bedroom with me. Hold on 1 second. It says Kari's recording has stopped doing an incoming call.
Oof.
Fuck.
Yeah, fuck. Heads up, what should I do? Let me ask what I should do.
What the hell?
Make sure the recording device has enough space. Recommended over 2 gigabytes free. I don't know what to do in that. Are you saying you weren't?
Dang it.
Yeah, it's uploading our whole thing now. Shoot, I don't know how to do that.
Gosh, so sorry. That was awesome. What the hell? Should I just let it?
I mean, it looks like you're recording again, but I just don't know for sure.
Does
it say you're recording now? Okay. Well, because it says it's uploading, but let's just keep going and pray it's there. I don't know what else to do. Actual recording is higher quality. It looks like you're back recording. So I'll just edit that out. So anyway, I'll start over with the story real quick, and then we'll move on because we're running. Okay, so I had this last week. I was in Greenville helping with my grandbabies, and I was cooking dinner or something, and Caroline had surgery that morning, and she was back in the bed, and she was so cute. She waddled out there to get her a drink. She said, hey, when you finish, why don't you come sit in the bedroom with me and chat with me? And I love that. She didn't want wisdom. She didn't want advice. She just wanted the connection. So I did. I finished with dinner. My son was there taking care of the kids. So I went back and sat with her for 30 minutes and we just chatted and caught up, and it was lovely. So they don't always want our wisdom. They don't often, most of the time, I would say they don't want our wisdom, but they do want our support. And so that's another area. If we want to strengthen grandparenting ties, we can be obvious with our support, emotional support and physical support. Kari, what are some ways that you have given your children and grandchildren support, emotional support, physical support? How have you been there for them?
Yeah.
What does that look like?
And I just want to reiterate real quick, I'm giving my daughter-in-law a shout out. She got her degree is in early childhood education, so she's a much better mom than I was. So she doesn't often need my wisdom. So
that's not true though. Wisdom.
Well,
See,
yes.
she doesn't have wisdom yet. She's young. She has experience and
Right.
knowledge.
You're right. And
Yeah,
sharing
you have wisdom
is changing that posture. And I feel like if we can do that as grandparents, that will take care of most of the issues. Is that, like Alecia, you were talking about, approaching it in a way is, how can I help you? How can I be here for you? Rather than, oh, I know all this stuff and you need to know what I know. And I think that's where we get in trouble, is just changing our posture and being available for when because they're different, right? I think supporting them is just finding out who they are and what they're going through and paying attention to where they're at, physically, emotionally, where their job, and then how I can show up for them. So this week we went down to Atlanta to be with Millie and watch her little book parade. And Andy had a meeting while we were down there. So I told Kayla, I said, hey, can I come hang out with you for an hour? And, I know because she's talked to me last week, she's been wanting to find time to go for a run. So I said, hey, I'll watch the boys, you can go for a run. So just for me remembering that she wanted to go for a run and then opening up that space for her and offering her to do that, I think, and she took it and she did. So paying attention to who they are as people, where they're at, rather than us thinking that we're going to come in and change them and show up for them and it's all about us, about who are they. And so I try to do that with my kids, just figure out where they're at. And hey, I send sometimes just a Venmo for coffee, just $10. Hey, go out for coffee. I know you've had a busy week and a tough week, so here's just something. Or go out to lunch or something like that. So like we've talked about, just small deposits, meeting them where they're at.
That's a great idea. I love that. Alecia, you have anything to add on that, on offering support?
Yeah. So like specifically for our situation, we live very close to all of our grandkids. We're no more than like 35 to 45 minutes from them. So again, I try to look and see where there's a need. But I'll often pick the kids up from their daycare, especially on Wednesday night. We have family dinner so that they don't have to do that. That's one more thing off their plate. I tried to make some, I made some chicken soup bone broth for my daughter-in-law. She was sick and not feeling well. Of course, I bombed on it because I didn't plan enough time to actually get it to her when I said I was going to get it to her. But eventually she did get it, and I hope she appreciated it. She probably wasn't as sick anymore. But just little things like that. And I'm like, hey, what can I do? Do you want me to bring you chicken soup? Do you want me to take a kid? And she's like, ooh, chicken soup sounds good. So I was like, okay, great. I need to do better at planning my time. But things like that. We like to take them one at a time to kind of give the parents time with the other ones individually. They each only have 2. So, but you take that one-on-one time for us is amazing. So different than when we have all of them. And also, I imagine that one-on-one time is amazing for them as parents because they don't typically get that, especially with the later born kids, because they're born into this family of people already being there, them having to share mom and dad.
Yeah. That's so good. I think the key that you both said is just meeting them where they are and what they actually need, not what we think, inserting ourselves what we think they need. That usually will be a disservice to them, but really just listening and get to know them and meet them where they are. I think that's huge. One of the things I also think we can do well or not is talk about family history. Our daughter-in-laws, especially son-in-laws, they haven't been around this whole time. So how do we handle family history, telling these, how do we connect, use that as a strengthening mechanism to tell them the stories that they might have missed? Like, it's one thing to tell jokes that they might not get in front of them, family jokes, but how do we tell the stories? How do we get them to kind of really buy into this whole family that they have married into? Do y'all have any things that you do that to strengthen those types of stories for your?
So for us,
you mean,
go ahead.
I was just going to ask, clarifying. So you mean like when we're telling stories of when our family was younger before they came along?
Yeah. Or even back before that. Sure.
Yeah. Go ahead, Kari.
So going, like you're talking about going back farther. So last Christmas, my mom did a really good job at bringing in the family history and writing it down and getting it into a notebook for me. So I got 5 black notebooks and I printed all the stuff out that she had and gave each one, but also, and this was Benjo's idea, also continue the genealogy from where it left off. It left off at my dad. So I had to continue, and I married this person and put Taylor in there and put Carly married Benjo. So we continued the family history, printed that all out and gave it each to them. And it's cool because there's like newspaper clippings and things from, the 1800s
cool.
and just so Kayla was there and she's like, hey, she appreciated it. She likes stuff like that. So it was great just to have them all have it and go, this is part of your heritage and this is part of who you are. And then to see their name in there as it continues on. So that was a pretty cool thing that we did last Christmas. Now I need to just go and extend it because there's a lot. So encouraging people to do that. It's really fun for them to know where they came from, but also to remember, we got to keep it going. We got to keep adding the marriages, the deaths and all that. We got to keep it going because it's important. And their name's in there in that little spot. So that's pretty neat.
Well, and I think it just does a great job at connecting the family together. Again, another way to strengthen that, yes, we were here separate, but now we're together. And with that comes this person and this family and these people. I don't know. I think it's a bonding thing to do. So I love that you did that. I have something similar that I'm working on. Even another thing, my kids asked me, they're like, can you make a recipe book for us? And this was my daughter-in-law. Not even my daughter, because, John Michael loves all these recipes that you cooked and I'd love to cook them, but I don't know how to cook them. So you make it. Sadly, I don't cook with recipes. If you know me, I just make it up. So I've got to figure that out, how to make it a recipe, but I will. And I'm going to do that for each of them.
Great
make a recipe
idea.
book because I think that is fabulous and a way to carry on those kind of things. We're going to wrap this up, but what about the grandparent? We've talked about the role as being supporter, emotional support, offering wisdom. What about this whole concept of we're the fun? How do you feel about that? The grandparent brings the fun because that's what I see a lot. They're the ones that are doing the silly things because the parents are so busy and in the thick of it and trying to get the jobs done. But we don't have quite the demands with jobs that we used to. Do you guys see that you're the people who bring the fun?
Yeah, yes, absolutely.
Okay. All right, Kari, tell me what that looks like. How do you bring the fun?
Yeah, even this week, Kayla was like, yep, every time grandma's around, she wears the kids out. I'm like, oh, I bring a bag. Every time I bring this bag and it has stuff in it for Hank. I had a gun with, Nerf gun with plastic cups and he got to shoot at it. And then I have something for Millie, got some Legos for Millie. And then, Hank and I went and played baseball in the hallway. So I think it's part of me as a mom remembering when my kids were little and wanting to play with them more.
Yes.
And just knowing how important that was. And it is so fun just to be present with them and just be fun and be goofy and have these weird voices of the stuffed animals with Roy. Like, I'm like, who am I? Like, oh, it's so much fun and I don't care anymore. As a mom, it's just different when you're a mom and you're in the throes of it and the stress of it. So being a grandparent is so much fun. Yes.
Yeah, I love that. Alecia, what about you? There's no doubt Alecia brings the fun, but tell us how you do it.
I love the fun. So, I love to take my grandkids places, whether it like little field trips, kind of, if you will. So that's one thing we do. Another thing, and I don't see them that often to do field trips, but at the house Wednesday nights, that's a perfect time for me to get down and play. Elise loves to do makeup. So if I can get away from the cooking, and just be Gigi, we'll go upstairs and it's like this big reveal. She does all my makeup and I get like sparkles and little rhinestones everywhere and she'll put bows in my hair and then maybe like wrap a scarf around me or something. And she's like, okay. Don't look. No one look. Okay. She's coming downstairs. Everybody close your eyes. We have this little reveal of her creation. And so stuff like that is a lot of fun. And then of course the pool. I love to take them to the pool and play with them in the pool.
Yeah. I think it's all so important. And again, I think as parents, I would never have let my kids do that. Well, maybe every once in a while, but I was so busy thinking where I had to be next, what I had to do next. I wouldn't let myself necessarily take the downtime to let them do my makeup and my hair. And I think my hair got brushed out last week 50 times. I mean, they just kept brushing my hair. Nana, let me fix your hair. All of them. I'm like, does it look that bad that y'all keep fixing my hair? But they kept on. And you're so right. I took them on a field trip and all the other moms were being so serious, keeping these kids alive. And I mean, I was the one skipping with them and, doing all this silly stuff because it just didn't, I think we don't feel the pressure of day to day as much as parents do. And when we were parents, we felt it, but it is nice. That is a nice thing about the role of grandparent that we can bring the fun. So as we wind up and think about small deposits and what kind of small deposits, and if you're listening to this is my encouragement for you. If your small deposit needs to be that you need to have a tough relationship. No, don't have a tough relationship, a tough conversation. Then we want you to do that. We want you to muster up the nerve. And if you need to email us and ask us how this sounds, we'll be glad to give you our opinion. We love to give opinions. Have that conversation. This birth is coming. This holiday is coming. This wedding is coming. Whatever it is. And if you're on the grandparent side or on the older adult side, then you be willing to listen and accept that. And remember, relationship is first. Relationship is the most important. So that would be my encouragement. If you've already had those conversations, maybe your small deposit is something fun. Maybe you grab your grandbaby if you're allowed and you go do something fun with them. Maybe it support your daughter-in-law by making a meal and taking it over, making some bone broth. But find a way to make a small deposit into your family. Anything you want to add, Kari, as we're closing this one?
Oh, I love that. All great ideas of how to just show up for the people that we love. And when you do step in, because just recently I have had to do that. And it's like, oh, I don't want to have that conversation. But what it says is that I care enough about this relationship to have this conversation. So when we don't and we feel those feelings, it just grows and it just, the relationship separates and gets farther and farther apart rather than leaning into the uncomfortable because you care.
Yes.
So
absolutely. I love that. Alecia, any final thoughts?
Yes. And I'm just going to kind of piggyback on what Kari said as far as like those tough conversations. And this is years of therapy talking. Anytime you are making a decision based out of fear, you are going to make that fear come to fruition. So just think about that, right? If you don't want to have that uncomfortable conversation, it's probably because you feel like you're going to be separated, right? You don't want that discourse in the relationship. But guess what? By not having that conversation, you're creating discourse in the relationship. So maybe if you can shift your thinking a little bit on that, it's actually the easier, better route long term.
Yes,
for sure.
Yeah.
Yes. Hey, listen, we're still learning. We don't have this figured out. We say this all the time. We don't know much at all. But what we do know is that relationships matter. And we want to be here to help encourage you on yours.
Absolutely.
Thanks, you guys, for listening. Have a great one.
Bye.